Welcome to the Rural Missions Podcast. We exist to enable rural churches in God's mission. So join us now as we hear stories of hope from across the UK. So welcome to the Rural Missions Podcast. My name is Bob Goody. I'm the Chief Exec for Rural Missions, and it is my pleasure to have on today's episode John Plum. So welcome, John. Why don't you kick us off by telling us who you are, a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me. I am a farmer. We farm in a very interesting spot of the country, right on the edge of the Birmingham conurbation. We're at Coleshill, Warwickshire, and have the privilege of both the challenges and the benefits of being near to a lot of people. So we can offer green space as well as effectively farming this particular spot.
And John, you have a few hats as well within the Christian ministry world. You're a trustee of a couple of things.
Yes, Village Hope and Agricultural Christian Fellowship. And we kind of work together with a group called Hope Countryside, which is teamed up with the World Prayer Centre. And we are encouraging people to pray into the countryside, to pray for farmers, farming communities, villages, anything rural.
That's great. And if anyone listening wants to know more about those, if you head over to our website, ruralmissions.org.uk, you'll be able to find links to those and be able to pray along with us and supporting our local farmers and those across the area. So, John, thank you so much for coming on. I've just got a few questions that I'd love to ask because I think it's really interesting having a few different voices and finding out what the lay of the land is, for want of a better expression. So you're a farmer, you're in the farming world, you're a trustee for the Agricultural Christian Fellowship, like that is who you are, that's your bread and butter. But what would you say are some of the challenges facing the farming community at the moment?
Currently, there are two major challenges. One is to do with the weather, and the other is to do with politics. And at this particular point, those two things have coincided because the government is no longer supporting food production. There are no more grants available. Up until last year, governments, previously European Community, and then subsequently the British government, they recognised that food was being sold at less than its production cost, so they would subsidise food. And then gradually over the years, they were more interested in environmental concerns, so started to fund projects for conservation, and the two were running together. As of now, as of this year, there is no more support for food production and only on conservation measures, which has led to a very interesting situation this year because we have had, well, certainly in my memory, the worst winter we've ever had. The grounds have been waterlogged for 6 months. We, on this farm, have lost most of our autumn sown crops and are busy now re-sowing in the spring. And that has raised interesting issues as to what we do next with some of the land. So we are now opting for some of the new sustainable farming incentive projects that the government is offering. So it's a complete rethink at the moment of how we farm. We want to go on producing food, but obviously there's a cost to that.
So that must be having such an impact on the people that you know, the people that you love, and not just your own family, but other farmers. Like, how's that going down across the way?
I know that probably a month ago, when it was still raining and the spring seeds needed to be on the ground, there were a lot of farmers across the nation really in deep despair. But at least now the sun is shining, the tractors are in the field again, but the options, the financial options for late sown spring crops without any government subsidy is looking quite difficult in the long term, well, medium and long term.
So obviously the government seem to be not enacting much, and it seems to be a difficult space. Like, what's the support like from others around farmers? What can people be doing in support of the farming community at this point?
You mean urban people not necessarily in farming?
Anyone, yeah.
Yeah.
How could the church be engaging with farmers who are on their doorstep that
Yeah,
are
well, what we are encouraging as believers is prayer. Um, a lot of the depression in the farming industry, given the politics and the weather and the things that I've described, the thing that really finishes off a farmer is to add to that the loneliness. So farmers do need people. We need people, and I know some farmers actually like to be on their own, but really loneliness, it can be quite a killer. So yeah, to be out there, not spending hours and hours of time because they haven't got the time, they're too busy doing stuff, but just accompanying people. And there are institutions out there. The Farming Community Network is doing a fantastic job, but they're really engaged in people who have reached a serious crisis point. There are a lot of people in that middle ground who are suffering.
so what do FCN do for those that are listening?
So they will get alongside them and actually engage with the authorities that they might owe money to, or actually help them through the particular situation. Give them sound farming and financial advice. So they're doing a great job, and they are Christians. They're not engaged in mission, because the whole principle of FCN is that they walk with, as opposed to really pronounce the gospel. In my head, the gospel is the answer. So I kind of have a slightly different view. Without the gospel, you got nothing.
So taking that point then, how could the church become more missional in that arena?
I in a way, I would turn it round. I would say that farms have a huge amount to offer the church. The great thing that farms have is, as really community hubs, we have green space, and people need green space. And we have seen how this farm has been used by a lot of people, both formally by invitation and various events that we do, but also just being here, just walking, just coming and being around. And there is a kind of a mutual support. I've learned to enjoy the folks that come and go, walk their dogs across the land, obviously on a lead, not letting them loose around the sheep, if we get that occasionally. But most of the people, most of the time, are helpful, friendly, and there is a real community feel. These days, if a gate's open or a sheep or a cow got out, usually it's a mobile phone call. John, hey, is that gate supposed to be open, or is that sheep supposed to be there? And very often they'll stay and help me sort things out. So there is a real community feel to that. So in a way, I turn that round and say farms have an awful lot to offer the church in terms of being missional.
Mm-hmm. So obviously faith plays a huge part in how you operate your farm, how you do life, and rightly so. As Christians, faith should be the central part of who we are. And so, John, I know a little bit about what you do here, and you open up your farm to visits, and you hold nativities and services here. Could you tell us a bit more about how you use your farm to engage?
Well, faith is central to everything. And I believe that everything that we do should be an act of worship. It says in Colossians that whatever you do, do it as unto the Lord. And that really is the principle. And if I find myself really on a given day not enjoying what I'm doing, I say to myself, well, you're either doing the wrong thing or you're doing it with the wrong attitude, because everything should be an act of worship. And out of that comes the possibilities and the thoughts and the promptings of the Lord, what we can do. And really, the events that we run, I suppose it's kind of opportunists. We get asked to do things. So recently we had a day where we welcomed the local Hong Kong immigrants group, the groups that have come from Hong Kong. We had 80 or 90 people here, and we showed them around the farm. We had some we did a trailer ride around, and then in the middle of the day we did a Bible story for them. And we've done it for various groups like that.
Wow, that's
Lots
such a
of,
great way to be able to
yeah.
engage and use what you've got here,
Yeah.
but actually your centralness of faith to be able to share. And you have quite a lot of schools coming as well, don't you? And I don't think you're shy in coming forth with the gospel there either, are you?
I love having school visits because God's creation is so evident. We do a lot of school visits. We do a lot with special needs and mainstream schools in the area, and the opportunities are huge. Just we might be studying livestock, crops, or perhaps habitats, and there's that moment of joy where you pick up some creature that was some mini beast that we found, and then tell its life story and just say, God made that. It's
Wow.
just amazing.
I love the expression "some creature." It implies lots of things that you might find around the farm.
Yeah.
So there's some great stuff in there. So obviously you're saying make sure people are feeling supported, make sure that we're out there and engaging with those in the farming community, ensuring that they hear from us. And prayer is obviously quite a central piece. Is there anything else that the church should be doing in order to be able to help, support, and to share Jesus?
I think that the church generally, to be church, you need to get outside of that building. And farms are a great place to go. So farm walks. I mean, you go back into the olden days, and lots of things happened on farms. Rogation Sunday, Plough Sunday, all these things they happened on farm, and there has been a gradual dying down of those things and an unfortunate separation, and it's partly to do with the gradual urbanization of church. So yes, we can get back onto the land, seek opportunities, and the church. I'm sure that there are many farmers who would host events. And they're not necessarily Christians, but they value community, and of course that's a way to lead the farmer to the Lord. Is can you help us? Can we hold said event on this farm? And huge opportunities. There's so many things you can do on a farm, especially in summer.
Yeah. So I think for some people that are listening, they might be thinking, sounds great. I'd love to be able to connect with my local farm, to be able to support them, encourage, maybe use the facilities. Now, I'll be honest, in my naiveness and some of my upbringing, I imagine a farmer's life is getting up at 4 a.m., working the field, and you're working through till 9 o'clock at night. Like, in reality, when would be the best time for you to try and engage with your local farm?
That's a difficult question. We are very busy. I do a very long working day, but what I have learned is that I don't separate work life from every other kind of life. So yes, I do some very long hours, but I don't separate that from the family. So the grandchildren might turn up, and okay, I can pause work for a minute. We'll do something with the grandkids, or they might come and help out. They come and work with us. So work and play are kind of mixed up. So there is no one particular time. I think it's just being sensitive to the fact that, okay, a church member visits a farm, and you just need to learn the signs that, well, actually, it is a very busy day. Maybe I'll come back later, or just a brief conversation in the day. But there is no one set time that you can say, oh, this time of day is a good time. Every farm's different.
I thought that would be the answer, but I thought it was worth exploring it just so we get a bit of a handle on it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you probably have story after story of what God has done through your ministry by being here on the farm and opening it up in schools with the Hong Kong Fellowship and them coming in. Is there a story that you think, yeah, that really stands out for me at the minute of what God has done that would just encourage us? Because I think that's one of the greatest ways for me that I get spurred to go and do something is when you hear the impact that God is already having and you just want to go, I want to be part of what God's up to. So have you got a story that you'd be happy to share with us?
Last year we became aware that there was a large Ukrainian community living in Coleshill, at the other end of the town from us, and some of the kids had got into the school, but I became aware that nobody had actually welcomed them to the town. Nobody kind of knew them, so we made contact. And we did a day on the farm for the Ukrainians. It was a lovely, precious day. Some of them were Christians, some not. But we had a fabulous time. We involved some of our local church people. We spent some time together. We walked. We had some games. We had food together and worship together. And it was just a really precious day. So just a sample of what can be done.
That's great. Well, thank you, John.
Thank you, Bob.
And if anyone wants to know more about some of the things we've talked about, you want to connect in with the Seeds of Prayer, connect in with the Agricultural Christian Fellowship, do have a look at our website. The links will be on there. But John, thank you so much for your time and for sharing with us. Hopefully for you listening, that spurred you on. It's given you some inspiration, but maybe it's challenged us to think, how do we engage? How do we step out of our buildings and go and share Jesus to some of these settings? Maybe our events need to look a little bit different to be able to go and support, love and encourage those that are around us and that are in need. We have a broken and hurting world that we are called to be lights in. So hopefully that's been useful for you. Thank you so much for listening and God bless. To find out how we can support your church, head to ruralmissions.org.uk.